Hello, I'm Tony Story, and I was born and bred in Haltwhistle, a little rural market town deep in Hadrian's Wall country in rural Northumberland in the middle of South Tynedale. And I was born and bred here, lived here until I was 18 when I went on to university. And I'm a Haltwhistle lad at heart, and I still keep lots of contact with the township and its folk. And over the years I've written a range of booklets and sometimes books on the history of elements of South Tynedale and the town itself. And I hope these may be of interest to some of you, and if you wish you'll be able to find a full list on the website. I was born here 1939, Haltwhistle Hospital, the son of a bus driver, and a lady who had worked in the local co-op but eventually had to retire when she got married, as was the custom in the time in the 1930s. And I came up through the Haltwhistle school system, the infant school with Mrs. Burkett, and the Church of England primary school with Major Mill, and was one of those few people who somehow managed to pass the 11 plus. And from then on I went on to QEGS Grammar School Hexham, where I found life slightly different in the town atmosphere of middle class Hexham to working class Haltwhistle, as it was in the 1940s and 50s, with the mines still active and the paint works very, very busy, and lots of people working in local agriculture and in providing the services for the community. And I enjoyed my childhood in Haltwhistle, and I hope some of that comes through in some of the booklets I've written about that childhood or about my school days, which are slightly different from the ones I've written with a major historical theme. So over the years I've tried to cover medieval Haltwhistle and its history, the history of the church and its parish, the way in which the railways came to South Tynedale in the 1830s and gave a complete new impetus to the town, and also to discuss and cover in a booklets the whole nature of the changing township from 1750 to 1950, and also transport across the North Pennines and how that's evolved from the time of the Romans right through to the present day. My father was a final link with the old-fashioned form of transport, as he learned to drive a bus at Robson's garage, now no longer present at the station corner, and he eventually joined the United Bus Company and spent his life driving buses between Newcastle and Carlisle, stopping off at Haltwhistle en route. At one time the town had its own little bus depot, but that ceased during the Second World War. So I came from that kind of working class family, and we moved around within the town. We had a number of locations before settling at Stony Rig in the West End. So that's why I called my childhood recollection booklet A West End Boy's Own Story, because it's about my experiences growing up in this wonderful township, really, with an amazing array of people, one of whom, some of whom, lived in a farmhouse up the Shield Hill called Moorfield, and they were a very famous family called the Burketts and the Flemings, and they were into local politics from a Labour Party point of view, and into doing good works for the local community and being active themselves as members of it. Jack Burkett was the chief engineer down at the paintworks. Millie Burkett was the head of the primary school. Muriel Fleming was the local councillor on the county council and an alderman. Connie was a teacher at Hallbank Gate, and Tom Burkett, who was interlinked with the family, had a local building business with his brother Jack at Crossfield. And I was brought up on Sundays at that wonderful family household up in the hills just below the Roman wall, with all their visitors, and because of their political connections I had the amazing opportunity to have high tea, as we did in those days, on Sunday with visitors from the political scene. Jenny Lee, the Nyman Bevan's wife, Arthur Blenkinsop, who was a local MP, who was instrumental in getting the Ramblers Association going and also in developing the Pennine Way. Professor Smales, who's the Professor of Geography from London University, who had been born and bred in the town, and at one stage Hugh Gateskill passed through. I was a bit overawed by all of this, but it was fascinating to listen to conversations. So my childhood in Haltwhistle was very mixed. I went to the local schools, I played cricket for Haltwhistle Cricket Club, I played tennis at the Tradesman's, and I learnt my politics, and they were left-wing at the time, from those who all lived at Moorfield up the Shield Hill. And then I went to QEGS Hexham, travelling daily on that riotous school train, where we got up to all kinds of mischief. But nevertheless, it was an interesting experience of growing up in a slightly different middle-class world, from which I passed on to university. I was, like many, the first to go to university from a Haltwhistle family. There weren't very many of us then. Now, fortunately, there are very large numbers. So, if you want to learn a little bit about Haltwhistle and its history, or neighbouring South Tynedale, or transport across the North Pennines, then you might find some of my booklets of interest.